The number $0 burned into my eyes like a cruel joke. 17 years of savings. Gone. I blinked, refreshed the banking app. Still $0. Then again. Nothing. At first I thought it was a glitch. But then my phone buzzed. A text from my husband, Mark. Don't try to call. It's over. No explanation. No apology. Just that. I froze in the kitchen, my hands shaking around a mug of cold coffee. Behind me, the morning sun spilled through the blinds, slicing the silence in half. Our daughters, Emma and Grace, were still asleep upstairs. They had no idea that everything I'd built, their future, their college fund, our security, had just been stolen by the man I trusted most. My name is Laura Bennett. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because this isn't the story of a broken wife. It's the story of a man who underestimated his own daughters. Have you ever been betrayed so deeply that your tears turned to ice halfway down your face? That's what it felt like that morning. When Emma came down, her hair a sleepy mess, she looked at me, then at the open laptop. Mom, why are you crying? I couldn't answer. Just turned the screen toward her. She read the numbers, the empty balance, the text. Her lips parted, then pressed tight. Grace joined moments later, silent, reading the same words. And then, something strange happened. They didn't cry. They didn't scream. They looked at each other and smiled. A knowing, dangerous smile that didn't belong to teenage girls. He messed with the wrong family, Emma whispered. That was the moment I realized I wasn't alone. By that night I'd canceled every card, locked the accounts, and called the police. But Mark was gone. No trace. No trail. Still, my daughters weren't panicking. They were planning. Grace slid a notebook across the table to me. Inside. Maps, phone numbers, screenshots of messages I'd never seen. Dad didn't just leave, she said. He's been planning this for months. The betrayal cut deeper than money ever could. He hadn't just stolen from me, he'd stolen from them. And yet, watching my girls that night, their eyes sharp, their hands steady, I felt something shift inside me. The grief burned away. The fear turned into focus. Mark thought he ran off with $180,000 in our hearts. But he had no idea what he'd just unleashed. Because revenge, when fueled by love, is the most dangerous kind of fire. And ours had just been lit. That night, sleep never came. The house felt haunted, not by spirits but by the echo of Mark's lies. Everywhere I looked, there he was. His coat on the hook, his cologne still hanging in the air, his smile frozen in family photos that now looked like evidence. Emma sat cross-legged on the living room rug, laptop open, her fingers flying. Grace scrolled through old family pictures on her phone, her jaw tight. He didn't just vanish, Mom, Emma said. He prepared for this. He was right. The more we dug, the more the pattern emerged. Late-night business trips. New credit cards I'd never seen. Secret emails under the name Martin Hale. My stomach twisted. Martin Hale. Grace nodded, showing me a fake LinkedIn profile. Mark's face, but a different name, a fake job, even a fake hometown. He's been living a second life, she whispered. My name is Laura Bennett. And from wherever you're watching this, remember, betrayal doesn't happen overnight. It's built brick by brick, lie by lie, until the whole thing collapses on top of you. Have you ever realized that the person you loved most was just pretending to exist? By sunrise, we had enough to know one thing. Mark had taken every cent from our daughter's college fund and transferred it to an offshore account. But that wasn't the part that broke me. It was seeing a photo of him with another woman. She was young, maybe mid-20s, blonde, laughing, holding his hand in some cafe by the beach. Her name on the photo tag, Samantha. Emma's face hardened. That's his assistant. From last year. And just like that, the puzzle fit together. The long phone calls, the business dinners, the sudden secrecy about his phone. The $180,000 wasn't just stolen. It was spent on her. I wanted to scream, to break something. But I didn't. Grace looked at me, her voice steady. Mom will get it back. Every dollar. And he'll regret touching what's ours. They meant it. My girls, who once cried over scraped knees and bad grades, were now strategizing revenge like professionals. That night, Emma hacked into his old Gmail. It was shockingly easy. He'd used the same password as always. Gracie 2010. The irony made me sick. Inside his inbox there were tickets, flights to Miami, hotel reservations under Martin Hale, and messages from Samantha about starting fresh. So that was his plan. He thought he could steal our money, run off with his new girlfriend, and start a new life under a fake name. But he underestimated us, his sweet little family. We printed everything. Emails, bank trails, receipts. Grace made a folder titled Evidence. Emma labeled another one Plan A. When I asked what Plan A was, Emma only smiled. It's how we're going to make Dad wish he never touched a single cent. And in that moment, as thunder rolled outside and lightning flashed across our quiet suburban street, I realized something terrifying and thrilling. We weren't the victims anymore. We were becoming the hunters. By the third day, the fear was gone. All that was left was focus, sharp, deliberate, and dangerous. Emma sat across from me, her laptop open to a blank screen. Grace leaned over her shoulder, whispering. "We can't just find him," Grace said. "We have to make him come to us." That was the plan. We weren't chasing him anymore. We were building the stage and waiting for him to walk right into it. My name is Laura Bennett. And from wherever you're watching this, remember, revenge doesn't always come with blood or fire. Sometimes it starts with a quiet click of a keyboard. Have you ever looked at someone you loved and realized you could destroy them with what you know? Emma had found out that Mark, or Martin Hale, as he called himself now, was helping a wealthy Miami investor secure real estate deals. He was working remotely, pretending to be a consultant. He gave us an idea. Emma created a fake company profile under the name Eve Investments. Grace built a matching website, polished, professional, everything down to the logo. And the name? Eve. The first woman who made a man pay for betrayal. They listed a luxury property for acquisition in Miami, worth over $2 million. Then they sent a single email to Mark's alias. "Dear Mr. Hale, we came across your profile and believe your consulting services align with our investment strategy. We'd like to discuss terms." We waited. It took him less than an hour to reply. "Delighted to hear from you. I'm currently based in Florida. Let's set up a call." Grace smirked. "Gotcha." The next day, Emma posed as Evelyn Stone, the fictitious CEO of Eve Investments. Her voice was calm, confident, older than her years. I watched her handle the call like a professional. "We're looking for a consultant who can help with financial structuring," she said smoothly. "But before we proceed, we need your credentials." And just like that, Mark sent everything, his fake ID, his address, even his new phone number. When I saw it, I couldn't breathe. He was less than 40 miles away. He'd run, but not far. Emma muted the call. "You still want him to suffer, Mom?" I nodded. "Fully. He took our future. Let's take his." They grinned. A mirror of my own anger reflected back at me. After the call ended, Grace traced the IP address he used. A rented villa. Paid with our money. It was poetic. 4 days we watched, quietly. Grace hacked the villa's security camera system using the same login credentials Mark used for everything else. There he was on screen, living like a king. New watch. New clothes. New woman. The same man. But every lie has an expiration date. And his time was almost up. Because Emma's next step wasn't digital. It was personal. She turned to me that night, her eyes fierce. "He thinks I'm just some online investor. Let's see what happens when Evelyn Stone wants to meet in person." And as I watched my daughter's resolve harden, I realized this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about teaching him that the family he abandoned still knew how to fight back. The day of the meeting arrived. Miami sun. Midday heat. The air shimmered like gold dust over asphalt. Emma wore a black blazer, hair slicked back, makeup done by Grace. Just enough to sharpen her features, hide the girl beneath the woman. She looked older, colder. Untouchable. We rented a private suite at the Riviera Business Lounge. the same one Mark had suggested. Grace set up a hidden camera in Emma's handbag. I waited across the street in the car, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. My name is Laura Bennett. And from wherever you're watching this, let me ask you something. Have you ever looked someone in the eye, someone who destroyed your life, and realized they didn't even recognize the wreckage they left behind? When Mark walked into that room, Emma said she could smell his cologne before she even saw him. The same scent that used to fill our home. He was tanned, relaxed, confident, the kind of man who thought karma was for other people. Evelyn Stone, he said, smiling as he shook her hand. Pleasure to finally meet. Emma smiled back. The pleasure's all mine, Mr. Hale. He didn't blink. Didn't hesitate. Didn't recognize his own daughter. Grace whispered through the earpiece, her voice trembling with contained rage. He's right in front of her. The man who stole everything. I could see the video feed on my phone. Emma's smile never faltered. Let's discuss your background, she said. We take integrity seriously at Eve Investments. He laughed lightly. Of course. I pride myself on honesty. That line nearly made me choke. Emma leaned forward, her tone sharp but polite. You've had some impressive projects. But I do have one concern, your previous financial ties to a Laura Bennett. His smile twitched. Oh, her. Just my ex-wife. She was unstable. Obsessed with money. He said it so casually, so easily, that Emma's fingers curled into a fist beneath the table. I see, she said softly. And the $180,000 you withdrew from her joint account. Was that a business loan? He froze. For a heartbeat his mask slipped. How do you know about that? He demanded. Emma tilted her head. We vet our consultants thoroughly, Mr. Hale. You'll find we don't overlook theft. He tried to laugh it off, but she could see the sweat forming at his temples. It's not theft, he muttered. It was mine too. Of course, Emma said, standing. But here's the thing about stolen money, Mr. Hale. Eventually it finds its way back home. She handed him a sleek envelope. Inside were printouts, his fake IDs, offshore accounts, photos with Samantha, screenshots of every transaction. He flipped through them, his face draining of color. What is this? He whispered. Emma's voice dropped, cold as a blade. It's your life unraveling. Consider this a courtesy notice. Then she walked out. Calm. Silent. He didn't chase her. He just sat there staring at the papers, realizing someone knew everything. When Emma climbed into the car, her hands trembled. She didn't cry. None of us did. Grace squeezed her hand. Phase 1, complete. I looked at both my daughters. Their faces were fierce, alive. Mark still thought he was dealing with a businesswoman named Evelyn. But he was about to learn who she really was, and what a family does when you steal their future. Because the next step wouldn't be about confrontation. It would be ruin. Revenge, I learned, doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it whispers through wires, contracts, and perfectly timed chaos. For the next week, Emma and Grace moved like ghosts. They barely slept, barely ate, just coded, planned, executed. My name is Laura Bennett. And from wherever you're watching this, remember, justice doesn't always come from courts. Sometimes, it comes from daughters who refuse to stay broken. Have you ever watched someone destroy themselves, using only the tools you handed them? That was our plan. Phase 2. Collapse Martin Hale. Emma started by leaking pieces of his consulting credentials, fake degrees, altered contracts, false tax IDs, to every client he'd conned in Florida. Grace timed the emails to go out from different addresses, each one more detailed than the last. Within 48 hours his phone started buzzing nonstop. One investor threatened to sue. Another demanded a refund. Then came the IRS flag, triggered by Grace's quiet submission of anonymous evidence. I watched it unfold from the kitchen table, sipping cold coffee as the girls updated me like soldiers in a war room. He's losing clients. His offshore accounts frozen. And, oh, Samantha's already panicking. That last one made me pause. Samantha. Grace smirked. Yeah. He thinks he lied to her too. And he did. They'd found messages between Mark and another woman, someone else he was stringing along for money. Grace anonymously sent them to Samantha's email, complete with timestamps and photos. By noon, Samantha dumped him. By night, she was on social media posting cryptic quotes about men who steal from their families. It spread like wildfire. One photo of Mark leaving a Miami restaurant, head down, sunglasses on, became a meme. #Martin the Manipulator. He didn't know it yet, but the world was already turning against him. And then came phase 3. Emma called his company pretending to be a client demanding answers. I can't reach Mr. Hale, she said sweetly. Is he still employed there? The receptionist hesitated. We actually let him go this morning. Internal investigation. Emma hung up, turned to me and grinned. He's finished. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. Revenge was supposed to feel satisfying, right? But all I felt was tired. Until Grace pulled out her phone and said, Mom, he just posted something. We looked together. A photo of him in that same Miami villa. Empty boxes behind him, a caption that read, starting over. Some people can't stand to see others happy. Emma scoffed. He still thinks he's the victim. I leaned back, my voice steady. Then it's time he meets the people he made victims of. They both looked at me, surprised. You mean face to face? I nodded. Not as Evelyn Stone. Not as hackers. As us. As the family he threw away. For a long moment no one spoke. Then Grace whispered, what if he doesn't care? I looked at her, a quiet smile breaking through. Oh, he'll care. Because we're not done taking his money. We're taking his peace. And that night, under a sky heavy with thunder, we packed our bags and drove south, toward Miami. Toward the man who thought he'd gotten away. But this time he'd see our faces. And he'd finally learn what kind of storm he'd created. We drove into Miami with the windows cracked, the air heavy with salt and the electricity of something about to snap. My daughters sat in the passenger seats like twin commanders. Emma with her phone wired to the hidden feed, Grace clutching the printed evidence we'd amassed. I held the steering wheel and felt like the axis of the whole plan. The villa looked smaller in person, vulgar in its luxury, white columns, a ridiculous chandelier visible through floor-to-ceiling windows, boxes stacked like trophies of his arrogance. Mark opened the door himself, hair still damp from a shower, face lit by the smug glow of a man who thinks consequences are for other people. Behind him, a woman I didn't know. No Samantha now, a different woman, eyes wide and unsure, watched us enter. My name is Laura Bennett. And from wherever you're watching this, pay attention when a family decides not to be victims anymore. Have you ever watched a liar try to look innocent and realize the mask is the ugliest thing he owns? Mark's smile was quick and practiced. Laura? What a surprise. His voice scraped like sand. He hadn't expected Emma to come in person, hadn't expected me. Pride makes thieves sloppy. Emma stepped forward, Evelyn's blazer replaced by the set jaw of my daughter. She didn't need the fake accent. Everything in her said accusation. We'd like a few minutes, she said. Calm. Controlled. Deadly. He laughed it off. Of course. Sit down. Drinks. Grace didn't wait. She spread the folder on the kitchen island. Every wire transfer, every offshore name, every message. Photos. Screenshots. Bank statements with our daughter's names stamped like a brand. Mark's face drained. For a second I saw the man I married, the man who begged for help during storms, flash and die. Then the liar returned, scrambling. This is fraudulent. You have no proof. That's when the knock came. From people. Multiple agents in dark suits filled the doorway, badges glinting like the final note in a symphony. Someone from the state had been tipped off. The IRS case we triggered and the bank freeze had done more than inconvenience him. They'd put a target on his back. His voice became small. What is this? An agent read charges. Wire fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy to defraud. The words landed like hammers. He tried to charm his way out to tell the woman beside him it was all a misunderstanding, but her eyes sharpened. She'd seen the evidence too, and the sheen of deception peeled away. Handcuffs closed around his wrists like the final clasp of a book. He looked at me then, right at me, face gone hollow, the arrogance evaporated into a desperate plea. Laura, please. There was no mercy left in me that day. Not because I wanted to watch him suffer, because suffering alone wouldn't fix the years he'd stolen, but because he needed to understand the shape of the damage he'd made. He needed to see the daughters he'd tried to buy and break standing straight. As they led him out, Mark's eyes flicked to the woman he'd planned a future with. She walked away. No vows, no denials, just the sound of a life folding shut. When the agents left, Emma closed her phone. Grace folded the last page and tucked it into her bag. We walked to the car together, 3 silhouettes against the Miami sun, and I felt something strange. Not triumph, not vengeance, but an odd, soft exhaustion. Outside, the ocean rolled on, indifferent and steady. I breathed it in like a promise that the world kept moving even when people broke it. That night, back in the rental, my daughters fell asleep quickly, bodies finally slack with release. I sat awake longer, watching them, cataloging every small human detail. Emma's freckle by her ear, Grace's long eyelashes. Proof that what mattered most had survived. And somewhere between the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of waves, I whispered to the darkness. We taught him to fear. We drove into Miami with the windows cracked, the air heavy with salt and the electricity of something about to snap. My daughters sat in the passenger seats like twin commanders. Emma with her phone wired to the hidden feed, Grace clutching the printed evidence we'd amassed. I held the steering wheel and felt like the axis of the whole plan. The villa looked smaller in person, vulgar in its luxury, white columns, a ridiculous chandelier visible through floor-to-ceiling windows, boxes stacked like trophies of his arrogance. Mark opened the door himself, hair still damp from a shower, face lit by the smug glow of a man who thinks consequences are for other people. Behind him, a woman I didn't know. No Samantha now, a different woman, eyes wide and unsure, watched us enter. My name is Laura Bennett. And from wherever you're watching this, pay attention when a family decides not to be victims anymore. Have you ever watched a liar try to look innocent and realized the mask is the ugliest thing he owns? Mark's smile was quick and practiced. Laura? What a surprise. His voice scraped like sand. He hadn't expected Emma to come in person, hadn't expected me. Pride makes thieves sloppy. Emma stepped forward, Evelyn's blazer replaced by the set jaw of my daughter. She didn't need the fake accent. Everything in her said accusation. We'd like a few minutes, she said. Calm, controlled, deadly. He laughed it off. Of course. Sit down. Drinks. Grace didn't wait. She spread the folder on the kitchen island. Every wire transfer, every offshore name, every message. Photos. Screenshots. Bank statements with our daughter's names stamped like a brand. Mark's face drained. For a second I saw the man I married, the man who begged for help during storms, flash and die. Then the liar returned, scrambling. This is fraudulent. You have no proof. That's when the knock came. From people. Multiple agents in dark suits filled the doorway, badges glinting like the final note in a symphony. Someone from the state had been tipped off. The IRS case we triggered and the bank freeze had done more than inconvenience him. They'd put a target on his back. His voice became small. What is this? An agent read charges. Wire fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy to defraud. The words landed like hammers. He tried to charm his way out to tell the woman beside him it was all a misunderstanding, but her eyes sharpened. She'd seen the evidence too, and the sheen of deception peeled away. Handcuffs closed around his wrists like the final clasp of a book. He looked at me then, right at me, face gone hollow, the arrogance evaporated into a desperate plea. Laura, please. There was no mercy left in me that day. Not because I wanted to watch him suffer, because suffering alone wouldn't fix the years he'd stolen, but because he needed to understand the shape of the damage he'd made. He needed to see the daughters he'd tried to buy and break standing straight. As they led him out, Mark's eyes flicked to the woman he'd planned a future with. She walked away. No vows, no denials, just the sound of a life folding shut. When the agents left, Emma closed her phone. Grace folded the last page and tucked it into her bag. We walked to the car together, 3 silhouettes against the Miami sun, and I felt something strange. Not triumph, not vengeance, but an odd, soft exhaustion. Outside, the ocean rolled on, indifferent and steady. I breathed it in like a promise that the world kept moving even when people broke it. That night, back in the rental, my daughters fell asleep quickly, bodies finally slack with release. I sat awake longer, watching them, cataloging every small human detail. Emma's freckle by her ear, Grace's long eyelashes. Proof that what mattered most had survived. And somewhere between the hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of waves, I whispered to the darkness. We taught him to fear what he took. Now we teach ourselves to live. Morning light spilled through the blinds like forgiveness I wasn't ready to accept. Mark was gone, locked away somewhere cold and federal. But his shadow still lingered in every corner of our lives. The headlines called him the family man fraud. Reporters camped outside our house for days. Friends texted condolences. Strangers sent sympathy. None of it mattered. Because closure isn't a news story. It's a slow, private thing that takes its time to find you. My name is Laura Bennett. And from wherever you're watching this, tell me something. Have you ever won the war but still woken up feeling like the battlefield was inside you? That was me. Emma sat at the table, scrolling through the online news feed, every article replaying what he did. Grace brewed coffee like she was trying to outrun sleep. Neither spoke much those first few days. The adrenaline had burned out, leaving behind a kind of quiet we didn't know how to live in. Until one morning Grace said, "Mom, check this out." She turned the laptop toward me, a notification from the bank. The seized funds from Mark's offshore accounts had been recovered. Every penny. $180,000.17, interest and all. For a second I couldn't breathe. It felt too poetic to be real. Our daughter's future, the thing he tried to steal, had found its way home, just like Emma said it would. We didn't celebrate. Not yet. Emma just whispered, "He thought he bought freedom with our money. Guess he rented a cell instead." But it wasn't just about the money anymore. It was about rewriting the story he tried to write for us. So, that week I called the university. Told them both girls were confirmed for fall semester. Paid their tuition in full. Every cent wired from the same fund he thought he owned. When I hit submit, something inside me loosened. Maybe forgiveness wasn't for him. Maybe it was for us, for surviving him. Later that night we drove down to the coast. Grace brought a small box, the last of Mark's things we'd kept. An old watch, a photo from better times, and one of his fake IDs with Martin Hale, printed in gold letters. We stood by the water. The wind howled like it wanted to say something too. "You sure about this?" Emma asked. I nodded. He tried to bury us in lies. Let's bury what's left of him. Grace dropped the watch first. Then the photo. When the ID slipped into the tide, I swear I heard the ocean hiss. Like it was done with him too. For the first time in years I didn't feel hollow. I felt clean. As we drove home the girls laughed. Real laughter this time. Not sharp or forced. The kind that fills the silence instead of breaking it. Emma leaned her head against the window and murmured, "Do you think he'll ever understand what he lost?" I smiled at the road ahead. "That's the beauty of it, sweetheart. He'll have the rest of his life to think about it." Behind us, the ocean swallowed the last of his lies. Ahead of us, the world looked wide open again, untouched, unwritten. But before I could call it over, Grace said something that made my heart stutter. "Mom, what if we don't just end the story? What if we own it?" Her idea, her brilliant, wild idea, would change everything one more time. Because revenge was done. But legacy? That was just beginning. It's strange how peace feels after chaos. Quiet, soft, almost suspicious. For months, I woke expecting another disaster. A call. A knock. A new secret. But none came. Just sunlight. Coffee. Laughter. Emma was already packing for college. Grace had started writing again, stories about strength, women, and survival. Me. I was learning how to live without fear in my throat. My name is Laura Bennett. And from wherever you're watching this, let me ask you one last thing. Have you ever realized that revenge wasn't the ending? It was just the beginning of getting your life back? After everything, Grace's idea still echoed in my head. Mom, what if we don't just end the story? What if we own it? So we did. We started a small online blog called The Bennett Ledger. A simple name, nothing flashy. Emma designed the site, Grace wrote the posts, and I told the truth. Not just about Mark, but about recovery, about financial abuse, about how women rebuild from the ashes without waiting for permission. Within weeks, it spread. People shared it, wrote letters, told us their own stories. One woman messaged, "I thought I was alone. Thank you for proving I'm not." That line alone was worth more than the money. Then something poetic happened. A journalist reached out. She'd been covering Mark's trial. His sentencing was official. 10 years. Federal prison. No parole. When she asked if I wanted to make a statement, I told her the truth. He stole $180,000 from our daughter's future. But all he really did was fund their strength. The story went viral. But this time it wasn't about shame or pity. It was about survival. About turning a wound into a weapon. Not to hurt others but to protect yourself. On the day the first scholarship check from the Bennett Ledger Fund went out, a full tuition grant for a girl whose father left her in debt, Emma hugged me and whispered, "You turned revenge into something beautiful." I laughed through the tears. "No, honey. We did." That night, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Grace leaned her head on my shoulder. "Do you ever think he'll see this? What we became?" I thought about it. The irony. The symmetry. "Maybe," I said softly. "And if he does, I hope it haunts him. Not because we punished him, but because we thrived without him." The sky deepened into violet. The cicadas hummed like applause for a show finally ending. The storm that had once torn through our lives had become the wind that carried us forward. For the first time since that morning, the one when my screen flashed $0 and my world collapsed, I felt whole again. We didn't just get our money back. We got ourselves back. And maybe that's the real revenge, living beautifully in the ruins someone else built for you. I looked at my daughters, their faces glowing in the fading light, and whispered the only truth that mattered. We're free.